Greetings, everybody. I just want to take a few minutes to clear up a few things and to hopefully sort of straighten out some misinformation. First of all, the term Aboriginal, that is not something that we called ourselves. The Thunderers, they agreed with the intention of this video. That's why you hear them in the background. Aboriginal is not something that we called ourselves. We did not call ourselves Aboriginal. We didn't call ourselves American Indian, Native American, Indigenous American. All of those are colonial terms that we did not call ourselves. At certain points in the timeline, they called us different things when they came here. The earlier you'll see them even saying negra de terra and things like that. Still not terms that we called ourselves. We didn't call ourselves Aboriginal. So that is not a status. That is not a racial designation. It's not a nation. It's just something that they identified people when they were over here very early on. So that's not something we called ourselves. Another thing, Niji. That's not something we call ourselves. Listen, let's be specific. The Cree and Ojibwe, some young guys said, we don't want to call ourselves what they named us, Indians. We want to come up with our own name that we identify by. So then they started calling each other Niji. You're not going to find that everywhere because it's nation specific. The Ojibwe, the Cree, they created that because that's what they wanted to identify each other as. Now, if you want to adopt the term Niji, that's okay to adopt something somebody else created. Don't start saying Niji and my Niji and all this kind of stuff like you created it and like it's something that we've always said and called ourselves. We did not do that. You won't find Niji in any kind of colonial or treaty documents here in the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic, or in the New England area. It's very nation specific. Now, can anybody adopt what they created and use it? Absolutely. With respect, you can. You just don't use terms that other nations create sloppily. So you adopt it, you want to use it, give acknowledgement to where it came from. Don't pretend like you created it. In our culture specifically, talking about Tuscarora, if you ask me who I am, I'm not going to say I'm a Niji, I'm not going to say I'm Aboriginal, or any of those colonial terms. I'm going to go on with. That's who I am, if you want to know who I am. The nation, the clan, everything, I'm going to go home with. I'm Skurure Uchira. Fachikora Dai Onuyunka. Katnuaka is the name of the land of the submerged pine, the sunken pine. It's talking about the swampy land we call Onuyunka. That's what it is. It's a swampy land that we're in because there's a lot of swamps here. You know, depending on the type of Tuscarora, where you went, where you migrated, and I'm not fluent in the language. I'm learning the language, and I'll speak very briefly about the importance in that. But Hadiscarora is the ones without the land when they left North Carolina and they went up to New York, and they were among the 5 nations and became the 6th nation. The ones who are here, we're in different areas of the state. You had some that went inland a little, you know, and they're in Robeson County. And see, you hear the Mohawk elders and other elders, they know about this history. This is not something we're making up. Then you had us that were further on, that were closer to the coast, and we were engaged in a lot of guerrilla warfare. You know, even when they threw us on Madam Mesquite Reservation, we were still sneaking off and we were still fighting. So when they pressed us, we were escaped. We were running from their religion. We were running from their enslavement, and we ran into the swamps, deeper into the swamps. You're going to find us in the Great Dismal in the northern part of the state. You're going to find us in the Great Pocassin or the Green Swamp in the bottom part of the state. And that's where we hid. Now, who else was in the swamp? It was Indians, Africans, and Europeans. And all of us was fighting the oppression. In the northern part of the state and in the southern part of the state, we was fighting this colonization, this settling on top of us. We were fighting. We know our history. When I met with the professor at the college, I'm not going to name the college, I'm not going to name the professor, but he doesn't want to accept our oral history. Listen, our history, Tuscarora people, and there's other nations. Many nations lost languages and lost a lot. Some nations were able to preserve and were able to keep it intact, in full. The Tuscarora, we have our language, we have our ceremonies, we have everything. Do we know them all down here? I don't. I'm learning. There's a lot of people learning. In New York, they have the immersion class because people are relearning. You have fluent speakers that was their first language, and then you have people like me who are relearning, have to learn the language all over because it has been pretty much bred out of us. And we have taken on English as a first language. That's just a sign of colonization. That's all that is. If you say you're not colonized, please. Now, here's the thing. So we address this Aboriginal and American Indian, all those terminologies. Each nation has a way to address themselves. Dene, or, us, Okwonwes, we have ways, and what we're saying is we're the first people, the real people, the principal people, depending on the nation and how they're saying that. We didn't call ourselves Aboriginal and all these kind of things. Here's something else that you need to be aware of. During the colonists, they exploited us in many ways. They exploited us. And a lot of us fell for it. When I say many nations have dirty hands, at some point, a lot of us fell for their tricks, their trickery. And, it is what it is. Indians fought against other Indians. Some sided with the British, some sided with the French, some sided with this and that and whoever, but we were being exploited to fight each other. And 300, 400, 500 years later, it doesn't make sense to see this same spirit existing in the people, especially being that we are living representations of what colonization done to this land. It took people from a land, Africa, brought here, took people from the Philippines, took people from different places, and for the indigenous people here, that's a bad wound, because you being on the land and they take it from you and put you on a reservation, or it's crazy when you really think about it. All the things that we can be focusing on versus all this pettiness. So yeah, Indians was fighting Indians 400 or 500 years later. For that to still be continuing right now is really stupid. Now, the North and the South, we don't have problems with our northern relatives. They don't have problems with their southern relatives. I am Tuscarora. I have Wokan ancestry. We have, depending on the border, the Kusabu province. We have no problems with the North. The Tuscarora is considered a northern tribe anyway. However, we are in the South. We have no problems with the North. We have no problems with the South. I don't see my northern relatives having problems with us because we're friends and we're part of the same federation. If they had problems with tribes in the South and we had problems with tribes in the North, how in the hell could we be a part of the same federation? So you got the Cherokee, Lenape, the Pokanoket, all those tribes up there. We're family. We're family now. And we are actually finding some kinship when we start digging into genealogical bloodline ties and DNA and so forth. A bit of history. The Yamasee came up here to help the colonists fight us. We returned when they went to war to help the colonists fight them, tit for tat, right? But here's something that the historians, you'll never hear them talk about. We actually helped we were a part of the Seminole War, helping the Seminoles. We helped them. Now, if you know anything about the Yamasee history, you'll know that they're connected to the Seminoles. They're connected at the hip. They're connected. They're pretty much one and the same people. The Seminoles is an amalgamation of tribes. And when I say amalgamation, many people left and went down there to form what you know as the Seminoles. The other flip side to that is the Miccosukee. And from my understanding, I see the Miccosukee and the Yamasee have a relationship with each other now. And the Yamasee has a relationship with the Lenape, the Cherokee Lenape up north, and vice versa. They have a relationship with them as friends. What I'm saying, essentially saying, is there's no north and south issues going on. That is something being created on social media to gain likes and to try to be up on the next person with your comebacks and trying to gain followers by saying they're hating on the South. We have no issues. We have no issues at all. So there's a lot of misinformation being put out. A lot of misinformation. You need to be intellectually honest and accept who you are, whatever makes you up. You need to just accept that and stop with the foolishness and promoting this 100% whatever you claim to be. We know, the historians know, that mixing took place on the East Coast. It was damn near impossible for it not to happen when you're all being put on plantations and reservations and everyone is right there together and you got the same people oppressing you. So now you have all types of things in common. Not only do you have similarities to how you live off the land and how you view your cosmology, but you also have the same person that's trying to kill you. So now you're plotting, you're planning, you're strategizing, all these things to escape and then hit back. If that's what the plan is, to hit back or to escape and keep it moving so you're not subjecting your children to that harsh treatment. So we had a lot of things in common with each other and a lot of these bloodlines blended. To say that you don't have this and you don't have that, you're lying and the academics know it. So you lose credibility instantly depending on what comes out your mouth. We have no problems with the North and they don't have any problems with us down here. I can name, and I'm not going to name them. I can name plenty of tribes up there that we are in close relationship with. And if we're close to them, that means they're close to us. And as I said before, they're also friends. The Yamasee is in, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. And they don't have no issues with them either. So where's the beef between the North and the South? It's not. It's just individuals who are pretending to be something or promoting false information and making it look like it's an issue when it really isn't. So if you ask me, who am I? I'm never going to tell you, oh, I'm Aboriginal. What is that? Where did it come from? Who wrote it? Did that come from the indigenous people or did that come from some European who looked and started jotting stuff down and his scribe started writing things? We are Onkwoonwe, Skarure. That's who we are. Katnwaka, the submerged pine, Chikordai, on the Weunka. That's who we are here. We have multiple communities here in the Carolinas, and each one of these communities know who they are. Now, if you're on the outside looking in, and you're reading books and then trying to come in here and like you are the historian or the authority on our families, you need to take a seat back. Because the historians in the family, they know the family. They know our history. We know our history. We know our families. Everything is family based. If you keep hearing me say family, because everything is about family. It's about clans. Now, last thing I'm going to bring up. Do you know the language? Do you know the language? Are you learning the language if you don't know it? Why is that important? Because the Europeans say that we didn't have a form of writing. We did. We do. The Wampum Belt is so specific to the agreement we made with the Europeans. See, they came with the pen and the paper. We came with the wampum and the strings. And in this wampum, we're being very specific about the ship in the canoe, about the 7-span skin, about the 7 generation. We're being very specific about a lot of things in the wampum. Very specific. Now, when you compare wampum to their treaties are codified. It's full of legalese at the time, of the 1800s. They're using codes. Did we know what those codes were then? No, a lot of people don't know it now. Fortunately, because of advancement in education and everything, now a lot of us do know how to interpret legalese and understand contracts and all these kind of things. But let's talk about the 1700s and 1800s. When they came, when they came with all these, this coded language. Did we understand that? No. But that's okay, because we recorded it in our documents. Our wampum is documents. No, it's not a pen and a paper. It's wampum and a string. It's documents. If you can consider pictographs and cuneiform and all these things language of the time, archaic languages, well, wampum is a language with diagrams, with images, with patterns. It tells a complete story. And in the belt, it's going to be so specific. You're not going to see everything that was discussed in the agreements between indigenous people and the Europeans mentioned in their treaties. But guess what? It is mentioned in the belt. It's mentioned in the wampum. So when it's time to go and assert yourselves, we have the documentation. But again, the historians only want to go off of John Lawson, the surveyor. His title was Surveyor General, and I'm speaking of the region here, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm speaking of this region. John Lawson was the Surveyor General for the Lords Proprietors of Barbados. Carolinas was in the government of Barbados at the time. His job was to survey the land and everything on the land, including the people, which is why he went around documenting the language. His job was to survey it and to give it, chop it up and give it to his people. So the historians want to regurgitate everything that John Lawson wrote. He's a European coming in trying to interpret our history, our culture, and everything. So when we come with you with oral history, you say, oh, that's hearsay. Basically, what you're saying is you don't want to hear what we have to say. Our language was passed down as oral. How do you think we passed our language down? Are you saying we don't have a language because it was orally passed down? The stories that we told, the creation stories and everything else about our clans, all the stories about our clans, is that hearsay? We know things that you don't know. Your books are falling short. You don't know everything about us. We're not going to tell you everything about us, but we can tell you enough where you can correct some of the mistakes that you made. But since you've been on PBS, since you've written books, since you've written been in magazines and interviews, you don't want to recant the things that you put out there. You're going to have to eventually, because now we're pushing the issue. All the communities are pushing the issues. But anyway, I don't want to be long-winded. I'm going to let this go. I just want to let you know this before I get out of here. Stop with the misinformation and be honest. Quit creating confusion. If you create the confusion, it's going to come back on you. It's going to come back. And when it comes back, it's going to come back with a vengeance. You keep creating all this confusion, it's coming back to you. It's not going to come to me unless I'm creating it. You create the confusion, it's going to come back. You're gone, it's checks and balances, and you're going to have to be accountable for the confusion and misinformation and all the things that you're putting out there. When we learn about our clans, we are taught about our responsibilities. We have responsibilities. All of you in YouTube world who are promoting yourselves, and I'm not calling names, and I'm not hating on you. I observe. I'm observant. And I see ignorance, name calling, talking like you're on the block. You know what? It's great to be able to shift and be able to speak different ways, to relate to different people. But when you're on social media and you're trying to educate people and you sound like you sound like you didn't have like a 40 ounce and you're on a block and you're talking about 69s and you know, free, you talking all this stuff that you'll be talking about at a club, or you know, the wrong venue, the wrong time. You need to stop. And the people who flock to that, whatever heat they catch, you're going to catch, because you're feeding it. You're feeding the flames of misinformation. So you're going to catch that heat too. You're not going to be credible to real academics. You're only going to be credible to people who don't know the history and think that you know it. I'm done. You all have a great day. I hope, again, I'm not calling names. I'm not hating on anyone. And I want everyone to be successful. I want real information to be put forth, not misinformation and trying to tweak things to fit a certain narrative, because you can't accept certain truths. Put out real information, because children are watching you, and we do not want to mislead them off. We don't want to lead them off of the cliff or into the pit or into a dead end. Take care. Or now.